sometimes that word can bring up certain things. And I think that that's actually sort of why I wanted to use it.
To see kind of that maturation process happen in real time. Amazing.
It was a moment to realize that like love and connection is all around me.
Even in your attempt to like mask what you're feeling, they pick up on it anyway.
There are a lot of men that I almost see like pull away. And I think there's something powerful in owning, like I'm proud of this moment. Hey, it's Adam, and you're listening to the Adam Cobb Show. Weekly content devoted to all things fitness, finding your center, and fumbling through fatherhood. Thank you for taking the time to tune in. We hope this is a space that you come to, that you can feel connected. We're better together. Please subscribe and follow all of our social channels so you don't miss a thing. Let's listen to today's episode. Let's let it rip. We start this with a prayer. We kick it off. I pray, Al prays, Gene prays, and it kind of opens a space. And I'm grateful for that pause. I don't know how often you pause throughout your day, but I don't pause as much as I'd like to. But I'd like to ask you a question, and that is the topic of today's episode. And that is simply, what are you proud of this week or right now? And what are you pondering? So what are you proud of? And what are you pondering?
Okay. So I'll give you both, and then I'll let you kind of do what you do best, and we can go from there.
What do I do best?
Ask really insightful questions.
Fair. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So what I am proud of, proud dad moment, right? We're a whole podcast about fumbling through fatherhood. So every once in a while, we got to get it right? Or at least we think we get it right. I actually don't know if I'm going to claim this particular one, but for the sake of this episode, yeah, I'll take some ownership here. Proud dad moment over the weekend. And I'll go into more detail, but effectively, it was a moment where my oldest daughter, and oldest, that makes it sound like she's like in college, like she's 4.
Yeah, it's funny.
My oldest daughter had this like really beautiful yet innocent self-reflection moment. And then she had a practical application of my advice like shortly thereafter, right? And the way in which the conversation unfolded caught me by surprise. And then how she so quickly thereafter put it into effect in the right setting. I was just like, teardrop, right? And the pondering is, as I mentioned.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I need some detail with the story.
Well, I was going to answer both, and then we're going to go into the details. But that's fine. We can take it one at a time.
One at a time. Like, okay. Let's talk about this proud of, because I was proud of you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
As a dad. And I not only want to hear the details of what you're proud of and being a awesome dad moment, but I also want you to show Gene and show the camera the 2 pictures that you sent. Right? The two gifts or whatever, right?
They're gifts.
The gifts, right? Yeah. The 2 gifts. And you need to show the camera because those literally, you almost didn't even need to add words. That's because how great and how much they aligned with the moment.
So I'm a master gift.
You are.
Person.
I realize that now.
It's something that it's a technique that has very little practical application in life, but I'm exceptionally good at it. Yeah. Finding the right gift to match the moment. So yeah, I'll take you back to the actual story. So it was this past Sunday, and my wife's friends from college had a joint birthday party for their daughters, right? Up in the Pacific Palisades. And we're at the birthday party, and all the kids are getting their face painted, and the face painting is like very important to the story, just from a visual perspective. So they're all getting their face painted, and my daughter gets a unicorn, and my son gets a tiger. He's like super into tigers, like just, front running this. Come Halloween, he will be a tiger, and I will also be a tiger. There will be a 6'7" tiger walking around the South Bay. It's gonna be insane. And there comes this moment where all the kids are playing and there's a golf cart, right? And who doesn't love a golf cart? I'm 35 years old and give me a golf cart and I feel like I'm 12, right? And the kids are on the golf cart and it's a bunch of girls, right? And my son loves his older sister. Like that is his like A1. There's nobody better in his world than his older sister. So if there's an opportunity for them to play, he just wants to, like, quite literally last night, he was like, we're talking about cheese sticks and she comes into my room and he's like, I told you Esme wanted a cheese stick. And he's like, "Go and get your cheese stick." And he's like, runs into the kitchen, gets her a cheese stick. Like he just wants to take care of her. Like he just like loves her to death. Anywho, all the girls are playing on this golf cart. And Esme's like, "Hey, Deacon, like come up on the golf cart, right? Cool, awesome." I'm standing here. I'm just kind of policing. It's me and a couple other parents. Let the kids do what they do. Let them be kids. And so my son gets up on the golf cart. And all of a sudden, as like eventually would happen at some point, right? And what is a child's childhood? All the girls start chanting, "No boys allowed. No boys allowed." Now, like I said, the face paint's so pivotal in this because it takes a very serious moment, makes it so unserious because my son's massive, as you can attest to. And he has this tiger face paint on. And he just gets, it kind of broke my heart. He gets so sad, hops off the golf cart, sprints to me. And I'm like, "Buddy." Now, part of me is like, I'm trying to hold him here in this moment and like comfort him and like, you know, be there. And then there's also this part of me that's like, you have this tiger face paint on you, which is just hilarious at the same time. Anywho, I don't say anything to my daughter because she kind of joins in the whole thing, right? And I kind of just let it happen. I'm like, "Hey, buddy, I know that like sucked and that wasn't really fun. And like, you know, we can talk about it, right?" And he's like, "How'd that make you feel? Blah, blah, blah." Once again, he's like 3. He's like, sad. Right? So we move on past the moment, right? He goes back to playing and they go back to playing and it's kind of all past, right? Fast forward like 45 minutes to an hour, right? I have to take my daughter to the bathroom and it's just me and her, right? So I'm like, and I take this as like a teachable moment, right? I'm like, "Hey, we're one-on-one. There's nobody else around you." Because I'm not scolding you. You're 4. What do you know, right? But I'm like, we're alone. No one's around. Let's just have a quick kind of powwow, right? How we should handle situations on a go-forward basis. And so I'm like, "Hey, babe, like, do you remember earlier when everybody was on the golf cart and everybody started chanting, 'No boys allowed,' and like, you know, how that kind of made your brother feel?" And she like, before I could kind of like finish my statement, she's like, "Well, actually, I invited Deacon up on the golf cart, but then all the other kids started chanting 'No boys allowed,' and I copied them because I didn't really know what to do." And I was like, did you just admit that did you have the cognitive awareness to admit that you got peer pressured into a moment and you didn't have the situational like understanding to what to do in that moment? And I was like, I don't really have anything. I have no follow-up, no notes here. But hey, next time when that happens, right? Let's think about your brother, right? Because he's your family and we want to like protect him and we want to stick up for each other. And just make sure that we're inclusive, right? Like she completely hit the note. She like basically stole my line. Like there's nothing for me to say at that point because she got the thing. She got the thing I wanted to say.
She like the 8 Mile.
Yeah.
8 Mile Eminem moment.
Yeah.
It's like, say all the things about myself first.
Right. I was like, yep, cool. Got it. Now, fast forward, half hour later, right? Now we're all playing and I've kind of like, I think we've all moved off it, right? I thought she moved off it because kids have minds like goldfish, right? They just like, they're basically the J.R. Smiths of people, right? It's next shot, right? And they're back at the golf cart and another girl, as Deacon's trying to get up on the golf cart, goes like, you know, "No boys," or something along those lines, right? And now I'm like kind of like peeking over. I'm trying to see how this goes down. And she's like, no, that's my brother. He can come up here. Like, D can come on up. Right. And I was like, teardrop. Right. Like, great job. Right. Like, and I asked one of the moms just to make sure I heard that correctly. She's like, yeah, she stuck up for her brother. And I was like, fantastic. Right. Like, a needle mover of a parent moment to, you know, and once again, she's 4, but like to see kind of that like maturation process happen in real time, right? To not only understand what happened in the first place, to hear my comment, not take it as criticism, right? Because she could have easily shut down and be like, I'm in trouble. And like, daddy's yelling at me and I did something bad, right? But to not do that, to hear it and be like, okay. And then 30 minutes later, be in the exact situation she was in before, and then do the uncomfortable thing for a child, which is to like stick up for somebody that's not, you're not at your house, right? You're not using your own stuff, right? You're in a stranger's, for all intents and purposes, kind of arena, right? And to do the uncomfortable thing and stick up for somebody, especially like your little brother, like I was like, oh, so proud of you. Amazing. Great job. So it's something that like I have probably shared that story probably, I don't know, 1 billion times at this point, just because it's just like a very proud moment as a dad and just watching your kids, you know, do those impressive things.
So we fumble and then we flourish. And that was like a flourishing moment.
Yeah, no, it was a flourish. But once again, as I said at the beginning, I'm taking credit, but I was like, just great job for her.
Yeah,
you know?
Great job for her.
Yeah.
And, you know, guys, we're here talking some dad life. Like, good job for you too.
Yeah, thank you.
You're present enough. Kind of what I'm hearing is you're present enough to be able to notice. You are on your phone, just like, oh, I didn't even see the moment, which is very common.
Right.
And you're present enough. And then you brought it up and you really gave some really solid wisdom and some advice. And you delivered it to her in a way that she responded well. I think that's probably the key out of all of it that I'm hearing is like you found a way to deliver something to your daughter that she took, she integrated, and then she did the thing. Yes, amazing, Esme. And like you did that. So yeah, that was awesome.
Appreciate it.
Can you show the gifts?
Yeah, we found the gifts.
I mean, Gene's got to see the gifts. It was just amazing. Because I showed this to Daisy. I was like, oh, you got to see this. That one was in response to, there's 2 of them.
There's 2 of them. It stops at the Steve Carell crying.
I thought you said gifts, and I was like,
what did I say?
What are they called?
I think they are called gifts.
Gifts, right?
Gifts.
Like gifts.
Gifts, like
Gifts.
actual gifts.
Oh, like gifts, like a gift.
Yeah.
Not a gift.
These think the people think I'm an exceptional gift giver.
I think I kind of like mumbled it because I wasn't sure exactly what it was called.
There's good. This is actually, I'm glad that we showed that. Now there's context.
Isn't it Giphy even?
I don't know. I really don't know. I think it's gift, but I think if we didn't do that, then they'd be under the assumption that I was giving myself a real pat on the back. And I'm just out here just like I give the best gifts ever.
That's amazing. Yeah. Okay. Hey, great job.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great job. Yeah. Oh man.
Do you want me to go into the ponder or do you want to go into your proud moment?
Let's go into your ponder because my proud and ponder are very similar, same through line.
Gotcha.
So I feel like I'm just going to knock out one and then the next.
Okay.
I think also just sharing with the dads listening, with the people listening and watching, to keep in mind, sometimes that word, like, what are you proud of? Sometimes can bring up certain things. And I think that's actually sort of why I wanted to use it.
Mm-hmm.
The word, hey, what are you proud of? You know, there are a lot of men that I almost see like pull away. Well, it's maybe sinful to be prideful or whatever it may be. And I think there's something powerful in owning, like, I'm proud of this moment. I'm proud of myself. Because how often, like, you know, most people will cry when their dads say, like, I'm proud of you, son. And like the son or daughter cries. So there's something powerful in that. So therefore also to actually take some accountability in and own, like, what are we proud of? I think it's really powerful.
Well, to your point, right? It's the idea of being, it's actually not I don't think it's so much the taboo around being proud of something. I think it's the taboo around being proud of something that you might have done, right? Like, I can be proud of you. That's cool. If I'm playing sports, I can be proud of my teammates, but like the self-acknowledgement of something that I participated in and did that I am proud of, like the acknowledgement of me, that's where it becomes, ooh, it's a little uncomfortable.
And what if we could teach our children to be proud of themselves for certain things? And they didn't just need to hear it from me. For example, yesterday, as we were eating dinner, Scarlett jumped off her seat and she started singing.
Okay.
And she finished singing and she went, Mama, clap for me. And all of a sudden, Daisy clapped. And then she's like, Papa. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm clapping too. And I thought, wow, isn't that amazing? Like, she just asked for the praise. She was like, hey, I did a good job. Like, I want to hear it. Right? Like, clap me down.
Yeah.
Shout me down. A lot of pastors say that, right? Shout me down. And it made me think about, like, wow, what if even in this moment that we could just really feel that? We could feel and not feel weird, also as men, to go, okay, I can be proud of myself for something. I know that I, in the past, I talked one of the previous episodes around 8 days a week and finding your center on my Uncle Joe. And I remember I would go to help me out with the word, the gravestone, the cemetery. Okay. Thank you. I would go to the cemetery.
I was never going to get that, by the
way. I would go to the cemetery where Uncle Joe is buried in Mattapoisett, Massachusetts. And I would go to him and say, and just put my hand on the stone and say, man, as a mentor, hey, Uncle Joe, you proud of me? And I would say that a bunch. And I remember I finally went there after I rehabbed my knee and did the therapy and stuff. And I remember saying, are you proud of me? And I remember just releasing so many like happy tears because I said, I knew the answer. Before I wasn't sure, but in that moment, I was proud of myself. I was proud of myself. And I said, oh, I know you're proud of me. You know why? Because I'm proud of myself. Like, I've got to that point. And I think, what if the person listening and watching goes, okay, what if I make a little self-declaration? What am I proud of? And I wonder what that could do to somebody's heart, somebody's spirit, and really accept that part and then share it with a brother. 1, 2, that could be amazing. Well, so also, cool exercise.
It also gets rid of the whole seeking validation, of course. Yeah. Right? Like, that's kind of the punchline, right? Like, you get to this point, and if it's going back to your original kind of thought, if you're able to, if we as parents are able to teach our children that the only validation that you need is internal, kind of going back to the conversation we had with Michael like months ago, right? Michael is Daisy's father, Adam's father-in-law, where it was like, kind of everything else is irrelevant, right? What other people think of you is irrelevant, right? But having the ability to look inward and be like, that was something cool I did. That was something awesome I did. I love that drawing because I made it and I thought it was cool. I thought I did this project or whatever it may be. I sang the song. She sang a song. I thought it was awesome. Like, how much further, like how much that alleviates so much kind of like of a learning curve through childhood. If you can get past that piece and just be so secure in your own accomplishments and who you are as a person. Now, obviously there's kind of age appropriate ways to do this, but I still think there's kind of bite-sized ways in which this can be done to get to that point.
Yeah. Yes. And the part of like you and I both love words of affirmation as like a love language. And what if that was just sort of like, you know, a little sprinkle of cinnamon on top, a little sprinkle of sugar on top, just a little addition to what's already filled up, which is,
well, filling up your own cup is the whole, that's the whole thing, right? If you can fill your own cup, it's fantastic. And that's not to suggest that we're saying, hey, you know, do it on your own, blah, 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 right? But there is something that's like powerful that if you're able to be, if you're able to do that for yourself.
Yeah. Yes.
That doesn't mean you have to do it alone, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And as we know, and a lot of this dad journey, because we've talked to a lot of dads, it's a lot of the dad journey can feel very isolating. So here's a moment where you go, you know, I'm really proud of myself for this week. And here's what I'm proud of. So even this moment when you're watching, listening, please like write in the comments right now, just stop right now and jump down and start writing, hey, or in your journal, even better. Hey, you know, I'm proud of myself for this, blah, 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 blah. And then write in the comments if you want, and then share it with a loved one, right? I want that for people. I really do. And that's part of why we're doing this. Right. I'm proud of you for saying, hey, I'm proud of this of myself. Okay. So here's a framework for people to follow, for men to follow. Hey, what are you proud of? And what are you pondering? So what are you pondering?
What am I pondering? So as I mentioned a couple episodes back, today was my first therapy session, right? It's a great drum roll, by the way. It's really impressive, actually.
I asked the musician artist in the back to do a better drum roll. Gene, you got one?
And I think what I'm pondering is, you know, what does the journey ahead look like? Right?
Juicy.
I think it's interesting, right? I think I went in super excited. Once again, this was, and I say this kind of tongue in cheek, but like, this wasn't court appointed, right? Like I was the one who who sought this out, right? So it was nice from that perspective. But I also think there was a part of me that didn't fully appreciate till I sat down with her how much she was gonna push, even in an orientation like setting, right? And that I wasn't gonna get, maybe subconsciously, that I wasn't gonna just get her to be like confirmation, right? And I don't think I knew that at the time of going into the session, right? But then as we kind of started talking, I was like, ooh, you're not gonna just be like the person who co-signs all of my thoughts. Like, this isn't just time for me to kind of talk about me, and you co-sign all of my thoughts, and I walk out of here being like, this is great. I love talking to you, right? Like, you're going to get some actual pushback to the things that I'm saying. Yeah. And not even so much that
different.
Yeah, right? Like, it's not even so much that you're going to like change necessarily the outcome of my thoughts, right? Or my experience, but you may reframe how I got there, right?
I think of a great therapist is not a cheerleader.
Yeah. Like, I think when I went in there, was a part of me that was like, and once again, there's a subconscious. I didn't go in there with this kind of being the game plan, but I think I was being informed in real time of like, oh, you thought that you were going to just like direct the narrative of this conversation. And then she's gonna be like, that is so insightful and so thoughtful. Look at all the like therapy words that you use.
Pumping you up, gassing you up.
Yeah. I thought she was going to be like, yo, you are great. Nothing for me to do here because you were just so phenomenal.
You used the word regulating your feelings.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Dysregulation. Can you trigger?
Can somebody come in here and witness this guy? Because he is phenomenal at diagnosing himself, right? And she's like, okay. Yeah. And once again, she was awesome. But I think, like I said, the thing I'm pondering is just where it goes and the things that she'll make me really kind of dive into. Because I could tell by like even how we ended the conversation, there was this moment where I was like, ooh, you're just trying to make me feel comfortable so that I kind of like lay down all the walls so that by that point that I'm standing there, you're going to kind of come in with the hammer. So it'll be interesting to say the least where this goes from here. So that's what I'm pondering.
Cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, of course.
And sharing your feelings around and part of the inner work that's happening around something very new for you and can be exciting and scary and all the emotions.
For sure.
So, yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, great job doing it.
Oh, appreciate it. So
Yeah.
you kind of already teed us up as to you having a consistent through line for your proud and pondering, right? So without further ado, I want to know what those things are.
Yeah. Okay. So I am proud of something that I would never have done 10 years ago, but my godfather and uncle, who had been sick for 6 to 8 years, he took his last breath 5 days ago. And though I thought I was fully prepared, it was incredibly hard. And I woke up yesterday and I was so sad.
Mm-hmm.
And I got Scar's breakfast together. Mind you, this is what I'm proud of. I got Scar's lunch together and breakfast, and I did it in sort of a neutral way.
Mm-hmm.
And I've talked to many therapists and friends and mentors that I respect, spiritual mentors, about feelings and how I kind of show them to my kids and what that looks like. And also have lots of friends that do it different ways. And much respect to everybody, but I'm learning how I want to do it. So when we left our house and got to my car to bring Scarlett to school, she was a little fussy with putting on her seatbelt, as a lot of kids can be. And I looked back to her in the back seat of the car and I said, honey, a special one, can you please just put your seatbelt on? I was like, Papa's a little sad right now. And I just need, and even by me saying it, I started tearing up a little bit, just a little bit. And she, in the back seat, went, oh, Papa, do you want a hug? What? I looked at her and I was like, and normally I think I would have been like, no, I'm fine. Just put your seatbelt on. I was like, yeah. And I kind of stretched myself into the back seat. She leaned in. She hugged me longer than she normally does. She knew. And she held me and she looked at me. And that really created some tears from me and some emotional flow. And it was like a release. It was like a connection moment. It was a love moment. It was what my heart needed in that moment, clearly, versus me just not going to show that emotion, right? Dad doesn't show those emotions. And I didn't bring it to her like, this is what I'm mourning, but it was like, I am sad. And what I'm proud of in that moment is being able to say that and not just put on the happy face. I don't want to mope around, but I'm proud of myself for showing my little girl, that Papa, I have a full gamut of emotions. Mm-hmm. And she normally sees the silly and funny Papa. But yesterday she saw a sad Papa and she gave me a hug. And then she said, are you happy? And it was such a beautiful moment. And then we just, as like a almost 3-year-old does, she's like, okay, let's go look for pumpkins now and witches and ghosts because it's around the Halloween time. So we went for a long drive, and to honor my godfather, because he used to go for very long drives with us and just show us different parts of our own neighborhood, I went for an extra long drive to look at all the different decorations for Halloween. And my takeaway, and I journaled about this, but my takeaway was that because I let my guard down, or I was just very honest and transparent and real, which, as we talked about, Coach Adam Cobb was just always be able to just rise up to the moment and just be positive. And because I was able to say, Papa's sad right now, and actually cry and be like, it's okay. Yeah, but Papa feels a lot happier now, actually, after that hug. Thank you, honey. My reflection in that moment, and I got home, I journaled about it a little bit, and it was that in that sad and dark moment, that when I share that there's love all around. And I normally do that in isolation. And maybe as a man, a lot of men do that in isolation. And I, for one of the few times in my life, I'm not doing it in isolation, and it can feel lonely because my family's in Massachusetts.
Mm-hmm.
So it can feel lonely out here to mourn a loved one that passed in Massachusetts when all my family's mourning in Massachusetts. But it was a moment for me to realize that love and connection is all around me. And it's in my family, right? And I can go to it in my family. And also that it's hard, right? And just the truthfulness of, and then talking to Daisy about it, the truthfulness of, it's hard to balance. Where do I make space and time for mourning and for loss when there is so much complexities of being a dad and a professional and the different aspects of this?
But also don't gloss over, or I don't want you to gloss over the power, because I think there's speaking to the proud moment that you have, right? Don't gloss over that it's a two-pronged moment, right? Because there's the letting down your guard of sorts, right? And having that, opening up that emotional capacity to talk about how you're feeling in that moment, right? But also there's the power in showing Scarlett that you have that range of emotions, because she's going to see it anyway, right? I think the biggest thing I've figured out is that even in your attempt to mask what you're feeling, they pick up on it anyway, right? And so all you're really doing is showing them how to mask that emotion.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're getting this release point by not hiding it, and she is taking in information and being like, oh, my dad is a multifaceted, multi-layered individual. She's 3, but that's what she's taking in, right? Which then helps her down the line. Because I feel the biggest thing, if you think about older generations, it's kind of the storybook thing, right? Where it's my dad and your boy Travers, right? Talking about his book, talking about Marlboro Man.
Yeah, Traver.
Yeah, Traver. Talks about the Marlboro Man, right? In his book. And it's kind of this moment where every person from that older generation has this one moment where they're oh, the hardened soul actually is a human, right? But think about what that does if you realize that your parents were actually human at 3 as opposed to 43, right? And what that does for future, which is something we will continue to talk about, and as our kids get older, but what that does for, what that opens up for in the lines of communication when you're not putting on a front.
Yeah.
Right? So 1, proud of you.
Thanks, brother.
And 2, I don't even think, even in your proud moment, right? There's so many things that you did in that one thing that hit on so many different cylinders. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. I appreciate that.
I don't want you to miss those things.
To it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As you said that, it made me think about also the accepting of the support from even for me, the accepting of support from Scarlett, my little girl, and receiving help, similar to when the boys came and it felt like I was drowning and people were sending meals and taking Scarlett to the hospital, and receiving that support versus pushing it away, and how that then informs to Scarlett, hey, you get love when you're happy and excited, but also you get love when you express sadness, and here's a way to receive it. Here's a way to receive help and receive emotional support. That's also something else in there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Anyway.
She's also not responsible for your emotions either.
Sure.
Right? It's also showing her that I think there's always this miscue that can happen with kids where it's like parent feels a type of way and then they end up internalizing that they are somehow a part of why that parent, because there's no communication, right? But in this moment, it's like, no, maybe you didn't go into the full detail, but still, it's like, here's how I'm feeling. You're not a part of that in terms of like why I feel the way that I feel. But I'm also inviting you into this moment, right? So it's also teaching her that like you own your own feelings. She can be a part of the solution. You can be a part of the solution for her, but like you own your own stuff, and it's not something that she's necessarily, she needs to own.
Yeah, well said. Well said. Yeah, and that's what I'm proud of, and what I'm pondering of is very much this sitting with these feelings. That it's hard. I mean, the pondering part is sitting with the feelings of my boys, and Scarlett will never play with my godfather or, my Uncle Steve, and they're not going to play with him. And I knew that because he's been sick for a while, but the finality of that is the pondering piece. The pondering is me wanting to hear his voice, me thinking of stories that I want to tell, me writing these stories down and pondering what I want to share with my boys and Scarlett, and what stories do I want to share? How do I want to keep his spirit alive? And I've been just every day for the last 5-6 days, just speaking to him kind of out and up, and writing down some thoughts that come up. I've been crying every day, and I feel like I'm fine. And then all of a sudden I'm like, hey, bah, and I just let it go. And it has been really hard. So that's really what I'm pondering. I'm pondering how to balance right now, or how to align with the space I want to mourn, and also the complexity of the responsibilities of being a dad and a partner, and my business and my clients and life, and being able to hold it all. Really hard. So that's what I'm pondering.
The question that came up for me as I was listening to you, and I appreciate you sharing all this. The question I have for you is, in this moment, right? Like in this fatherhood context, does this make you question your own legacy and mortality?
Yes. Yeah. It does. It somehow affects me more because there were moments in my life where he stepped in as a father figure. I have a stepdad, Pops, that's amazing. And there were moments where Godfather stepped in as a father figure in certain areas of my life, and would often refer to me as like his third son, his third child. And for me, when I'm speaking to Scarlett or my boys, I find when I'm with my boys over the last few days and I'm sharing about Godfather, I find it to be harder to share with them something about the father-son dynamic, what I want to impart in you as a son and what I want to share with you. For some reason, it definitely affects what are they going to, I've thought of that. I've thought of that a lot. I thought of like, I want to be here for these kids for everything. And I don't want them to see me weak or not be there. And how sad would that be? And of course that brings up often, the thought of a few other loved ones not being around potentially. And that makes me sad too. So this is sort of like a carryover effect. I wrote down, how do you align yourself when grief hits? Something I've been kind of playing around with as I like to journal a bunch. And then how do you make space for sadness while still showing up for your kids and your work and your body for that matter, right? How do you show up for sadness? And I think the key here is like, it's like managing the weight of the sadness, even while it like doesn't feel like there's enough room for it sometimes, because there's so much going on right now. And that's the part that I'm really pondering.
The thing, and I'll end on this note, as you made that comment about like, how do you manage the weight of sadness as you try to show up? I don't think it has to be an either or. I think that's the secret sauce, right? Like, I think the misconception is that I have to deal with this over here and this over there. And I almost think you're doing yourself and those around you a disservice and by you, I don't necessarily mean you, Adam Cobb. I mean people in general. I think that's a very common thing for people to do. I think you're doing your loved ones a disservice by trying to compartmentalize it, as opposed to being like we just talked about here in that moment you had with Scarlett. Like, no, I'm hurt. This sucks. I'm sad. This is terrible.
Like I did it there. I created the together moment there. The
Exactly.
and there was for sure there. Yeah.
So now instead of you having to be distanced and alone, right? They understand where you're coming from, why you feel the way that you do, and then they're better equipped to even help you. Going back to that, like asking for help. It's not like so direct, right? But like everyone's on the same page and you can all kind of go through it together, as opposed to being like, well, this is my bag. This is my sadness. My people are in mass. I have to deal with this over here, and I don't want to burden people over here. It's like, no, let's do this. Let's do it together. Right?
Yes, it sounds beautiful and really hard to
For
weave
sure.
it in. And I think that's where the pondering part for me is right now. It can be hard. Yeah. So we turn over the question to you. What are you proud of and what are you pondering? Can we finish with the one thing that Godfather and I and cousin Stephen and our family would do together? And actually the last kind of words I heard from his mouth was yay, yay. So I'm hoping we can just close out here on 3 with a yay, yay. Sound good?
Sounds good.
All right, we're going to shoot this up to Godfather, to Uncle Steve, up and out. And on 3, we'll belt out a yay, yay. The
Sounds
bass,
good,
like the bass, like the Ice Cube.
I
Yay.
actually got can you actually give us a tutorial first, because I was told that my first attempt at a yay was not great.
By Kimbab.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. So she's judging you right now.
Yeah. No, I see you. I feel your eyes burning
Okay,
back
Gene,
in my
I
head.
need you too. Okay. 1, 2, 3. Yay, yay.